Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of D-Class Diaries. In this episode I'm going to be working on the radio control system. Superficially, there's nothing wrong with the radio control system that you get from Roundhouse. Okay, here's the transmitter that I got with my example. So here's the transmitter that you get from Roundhouse, and I suppose it's okay. It's obviously originally an aircraft transmitter for use with radio control aircraft. And how Roundhouse have done it with the directional control is they put a plate on this particular side, and then through the electronics, the servos that operate the mechanisms, the directional mechanisms on the power units, they will go in the right direction to enable the locomotive to move in either direction. But I don't like this, and I'm used to another one which will come on in a second. A big disadvantage for me is the size of the thing compared with what I'm going to show you in a minute. Standard out of the box, you've got to keep your thumb on the directional control, which I think is a pain. And a third disadvantage is that this thing runs on AA batteries. Now, all my electronics, all my electric stuff that's to do with my live steam locos, it's all on AAA batteries. So I have rechargeable AAA batteries for everything, and I have a battery management system or routine that fits me perfectly, and I don't want to get involved with another size of battery. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to fit another radio control system to the locomotive. And what I'm going to change it to is the Fossworks system, which I already have. I've already been using it for a few years and I'm quite happy with it. And this system, just look at the size for a start of the hand controller. I can operate this one-handed and no problem at all. So I can walk around with this thing behind my back, watch the locomotive and make any adjustments necessary without even looking at the controller. So that's the one thing. The second thing is that this Fosworks Omni controller and system, it's been developed specifically for garden railways, and this particular version, the TX3, is for live steam locomotives, and it runs on AAA batteries. Before we get into the installation, I just want to, using this very simple diagram, I just want to explain a couple of things. I've just drawn on the piece of paper the power bogie arrangements of the Garratt, and what you see is that the cylinders are in opposite directions. And what that means, if you want to move in either direction, the valve gear has to be also configured in opposite directions. So if you want to move the locomotive in this direction, the servo operating this power unit has to move the radial arm down to move this bogie in forward gear. At the same time, the servo operating the other power bogie has to move the radial arm up to move this bogie in reverse, and then the locomotive will move that way, and obviously the other way around if you're going to go that way. And with the receiver and transmitter combination that you get with you get as standard with the Roundhouse locomotive, that's not a problem. However, with the Fossworks system, that is a problem, because on the receiver, on the Fossworks receiver, there's only one servo terminal for direction control. So that brings up two problems. Just let me put this simple diagram in the middle. So the first problem that needs to be handled is how do we connect both servos from these power units to the single terminal on the receiver. And the way to do that is quite simply with a splitter cable. So this one is going to go onto the receiver, and then the two cables from each server will go onto there, and you'll get they'll be connected up correctly. However, there is a problem with this, and the problem is if you then just connect it up like that and you press one of the direction buttons, what will happen is the servos controlling this valve gear, the radial arms will both go in one direction or the other. So then they're both either in reverse or in forward gear each, but they're opposite, so nothing will happen. It won't work. So what you have to do for one of the bogies, for one of the lines, servo lines going to one of the bogies, you have to reverse the direction of the signal. And you do that with something called a servo reverse. And that's this piece of circuitry here. Okay, that's the theory. The practical challenge is to see if all this extra gubbins can fit in the available space where the receiver is. So what we'll do, we'll crack on, we'll open it up and see what we come across. The receiver and all the cables, they all come together at the front end of the Garratt. So we'll just take the cover plate off, and here we see the first part, and that is the battery holder. So we'll get rid of that, or we'll take that out of the way, I should say. And you see here already, here's one of the servos, and this one obviously controls the front power bogie, and the rest of the stuff is underneath this cover plate. So we'll have to take this cover plate off. Okay, here we go, 4 screws. Okay, there's the 4 screws from the cover plate. We can now remove the cover plate, and there we've got all the gubbins underneath. I can't see any glue or anything, so see if we can pull it off. Yeah, there we go. So we can take this out, and it's with double-sided tape. Okay, we'll leave it like that for the moment. Okay, we want to identify where all these things come from. Just going to take them out. It's easier to identify them. I think this one's the power, identified differently. That's the power. This one is from the whistle, the steam whistle that Tom mounted, and you can see that it's from Tom because there's an extra thick heat shrink around it. And we've got this one. Well, let's get rid of that. So we've got 2 in 1 heat shrink here. So one of these is the steam regulator and the other one is the bogie. The question is which one is which. So we'll have a look at that when we're fitting the new one.